Well, welcome back to another episode of Whitney's World podcast. I'm your host, Whitney Morgan Ward, and I am so thankful that you've tuned in wherever you're at on this planet. Thank you for being here. I have a cold, so that's super annoying. I do have my tea right here, so I'm going to try my best to not break up this whole time. But I do have a little bit of a cold. I hope everyone had an incredible 4th of July weekend. I did. I also did get eaten alive by mosquitoes this weekend, and they freaking hurt. They're literally all over my back of my legs and then like under where my bathing suit was. So that's cool, and not really. Pretty gross looking. If I could show you guys, I would, but it's not appropriate. So anyway, I hope you guys had an incredible holiday weekend with your loved ones, your friends, family, whoever you celebrated with. So I'm literally obsessed with what we're going to talk about today. I am really excited to bring you guys this message and to talk about this topic in my own personal life and something that I've been really growing through. It has been absolutely amazing. So my question for you today is, do you ever feel like you are not living an authentic life? And do you feel like there's something more to life than what you're experiencing? Well, if you do, I am the same way. I 100% relate. I have been on that journey myself the past 2.5 years, really feeling like the life that I had and have is just not authentic to me. Ever since I've been on my spiritual self-development and self-growth journey, I've really been focused solely on finding my authentic self. At the beginning, I didn't know that that's what was happening, but it's cool that like as you start to seek, you start to find new keys, you start to find new doors that open in your life that you didn't know even existed. So down my path of where I've been going, I've been learning that I haven't been living an authentic life. I haven't been living a life that's authentic to Whitney, that's authentic to who I'm meant to be in this world. And so I really went down the path to rediscover myself. And I've said this before, but one of my favorite lines from a song is, awakening is not changing who you are, but discarding who you are not. And I feel like that is so powerful and profound knowledge as you start to go down this path of self-development, of self-growth, and you start to find your authentic self, your authentic being, your authentic nature for who you're actually meant to be in this world. And so that is amazing. Awakening is not changing who you are. It's discarding who you are not. It's getting rid of all of these layers of yourself that have been conditioned to you, that you've been programmed to think that you are this version of yourself. Then you wake up one day and you're like, what am I doing? I don't even like this life. I don't even enjoy this. Like, this is not what I came here for. There's gotta be something else. And there is. We are all meant to come here and live authentically. Now, not everyone will. And that's a choice. You get to choose if you're going to live authentically in this life, if you are going to be the authentic version of yourself or not. That's your choice that you get to make. But we're meant to. That's why we're here. We come to earth for our souls to evolve, for us to discover who we are and really get into the true nature of who we are. And for instance, I feel like now that I've been on this path, I'm more of a hippie than I used to be. And I never would have thought of myself as a hippie. But now, and someone even said that to me like recently, they're like, you're such a hippie, Whitney. And I think that's so cool because, again, I was never like that. But now that I've been on this journey, like, I definitely am more hippie. Like, I'm more grounded. I love nature more. I'm really like, I feel like involved in life, like to a next level. And I feel like that's kind of like where hippies are. Like, they're very out there. They don't care. Like, they're grounded in who they are and they don't care what anyone thinks. So that brings me to what I really want to kind of talk about is on this journey of being authentic with yourself. The number one advice that I can give you, and I was talking to someone about this yesterday, is when you are on your journey of self-discovery and you are really trying to discover yourself, who you are, why you came here, like what's the purpose of all of this? Like when you really start to go down that path, there's one thing that you cannot do on this path. If you really want to live an authentic life and you really want to find yourself, your true being, the one thing that you cannot do is care what anyone else thinks. You cannot care about the judgment of other people. You cannot even think about what other people think. Like, you cannot. If you are going to find your true self, you have to be completely and utterly obsessed with that one thing, finding you. And to find you, you have to block out all of the thoughts of what other people are going to think. If I would have done that and thought about what are people going to think if I start a podcast, I wouldn't have this podcast. And I did think that. I still do. I still think about what do people think? Like, but I don't let it trap me and I don't let it hold me back. I actually use that as like fuel now. But when you get started and you go on this journey, if you think about that and you allow the judgments of other people on your life, you're not going to get to where you need to go. You cannot worry about what other people think about you. You have to do you. You have to follow your own vibe. You can't think about what anyone else thinks. This journey of self-discovery is not for the faint of heart. And a lot of people will never go down this path. But there are enough of us that feel this awakening, that feel this consciousness that's rising, and we feel this thing inside that's like, there has to be more. There has to be more. And you are the one that hopefully will inspire other people to go find their true self. But you have to do it. And you have to make that choice. And you can't worry about anyone else. you. You are all that matters. On your self-discovery journey, your life is all that matters at first. Because then once you find your true self, you find the right people, you find your tribe, and then you end up realizing like you have to help others. And that's where I'm at. I started my podcast not understanding what was going on. I just had a feeling to do this. And I know I've said it, but it's been the greatest thing that I've ever done. And it's led me down a path of finding my true, authentic self and growing me in ways that I never in my life ever thought or imagined. I had no idea that going down this path, starting this a year ago, that I would be like here as this version of me. And it is so worth it. When you go down this path, one thing you have to remember is that there's going to be times where you don't fit in. And it's funny because society is like, fit in, be like everyone else. But what fun is that? Like, what fun is that to be like everyone else? And that's why people that aren't like everyone else and go against the norm live these abundant, successful lives because they're living authentically. And then you can hate on them and think they're weird or say whatever. But at the end of the day, they're free. They're authentic in who they are. And they don't care. They're not trying to fit in. They're trying to be themselves. They're trying to create their own lane and create something different, a different path. And we are all meant to do that. But again, not all of us will wake up to that in this lifetime, but it is what we're supposed to do. Find ourselves and express that into the world and go find like-minded people. We all want to be comfortable in our own skin. That's genuinely what I believe humanity is seeking. We're seeking to know ourselves deeply, on a deep level, and to go within and pull out the parts of us that we need to pull out, discard that programming that doesn't serve us, our highest, best self. But so many people are so afraid to do that. And I get it, but what you resist persists. So if you resist changing, change is always going to happen around you, but you're never going to accept it or enjoy it. Whereas for like me, I love change. I don't like my days to be the same. That's why originally I chose the real estate path. And real estate is such a testament of like change. Everything's changing always. No real estate deal is the same. Every deal is different. They all have their highs and lows, the chaos, the bliss. Like for me, I never wanted things to just be one way. Like I always was seeking change. And within me always seeking change, because I believe in expansion on a deep level, I believe that we're meant to evolve and grow and expand. It's just continually, it has always led me down that path. And I'm so thankful for that. I'm so happy that I chose that path, even though it's filled with unknowns and it can be super scary at times. Really, when you get to the other side, it's so much more amazing than you could even think or dream of. It's absolutely incredible. When it comes to the challenges of your self-discovery, the big things that you're going to hit a wall against is like, what do people think? Which we already talked about. The fear of judgment. What do people think? And then self-doubt. Is it going to be okay? Am I going to make it? What if I go broke? All of these what ifs. But what I can say that I do know is that when you are working towards something to better yourself, it ends up working out because you become aligned with your authentic self, and it has to work. And it might take you time and like trial and error to get there. Like for me, thankfully, I really enjoy podcasting and my YouTube channel. And, you know, I'm really enjoying creating content now and trying to grow more on social media and stuff. Thankfully for me, that's worked out and I found my calling. But if you start a podcast and you're like, this isn't it, maybe you're supposed to shift and try something else. That's exactly what you should do. If it doesn't work out for the one thing, just shift and try something new. Don't just give up. Because if you do have this calling from within, your higher self is trying to get your attention, to get you to grow and to move forward. So don't doubt yourself. Even if you try something and it doesn't work out, don't doubt yourself. Just pivot. Change something, tweak something. Maybe only do a YouTube channel. Maybe you don't need a podcast. A podcast, you have to talk a lot and most podcasts are like under an hour. But some YouTube channels, you could say something for 12 minutes. You don't need a 45-minute episode weekly. I chose that because that's what I felt called to. And thankfully it's working out for me and I love it. Like I genuinely enjoy this and it's caused me to grow so much. But maybe for you, you try that thing, then you pivot and try something different. Yesterday, I was talking to a friend and we were talking about like cycles in our life because we continue to get the same thing in different forms until we learn the lesson. I'm not sure why our universe is like that, but that is what it is. And we continue to get the same thing in a different version until we learn and we can move on and grow. And that's how we do grow. So when we were talking about the cycles in our life that continue to happen and having to really look at them and figure out, how do I move past this? How do I change this version of myself to grow? And something that really hit me in that conversation was when you can really look at yourself in the mirror and you really ask yourself those hard questions of, what do I need to do to change? Because obviously my life is continuing down this cycle. There's so much power in that, because when you can actually look in the mirror and be honest with yourself, you can start to make small changes every day that's going to move the needle in your life so that you can eventually quantum leap into your next reality. But if you're not willing to look in the mirror and ask yourself these questions, you're going to continue down this same cycle forever until you die. And that is what so many people are doing. They have looked in the mirror and become a victim of their life instead of realizing, actually, I have the power to change my life. I need to change my mind. I need to do some self-concept work. I need to create a new identity. It's like you almost have to work backwards and inwards to pull all that stuff out so that you can end the cycle and jump into a new timeline, so that you can jump into the real you, the true you, the authentic version of you. But if you don't shed that last layer of you, if you don't jump off that cycle and into a new, learn your lessons and move on, you will continue down the same cycle. And you're not going to grow the way that you need to grow. There is no better you than you. Wow. But it's so true. Like, there's no one better than you. You just have to wake up to that. You have to wake up to your power and realizing that there's something special in you that only you are meant to do. And I know that sounds crazy because there's like 8 billion of us. But the thing is we're all powerful and creators. But if people never wake up to that, then we don't have any creators. We don't have anyone that is helping people, creating beautiful things, moving society. So with all the people in the world, hopefully you can be the one that wakes up to your authentic self so that you can help inspire other people so that they can wake up. Wouldn't that be beautiful to have a society filled with people that are just like so honest and true to themselves and free in that, knowing when it comes to finding this version of yourself, the real version of you. The problem that we face is that we get these ideas or like, you know, something goes off in your brain. You're like, oh my gosh, that's it. I need to do that. But then we run around and we start talking about it to people. And then somehow those people tell us that the idea is stupid. And then we just don't do it because we're so worried about what they think. But what are they doing? Are they doing anything? Probably not. So when I started my podcasting journey, I told some people, but I told them with a conviction, like, this is what I'm doing. This is what I feel is supposed to happen. This is what I feel like I'm going to talk about. And I'm going to make a memoir of my life and see what happens. And people were like, I think that's great. If it would have been something else, people might have said no. But with whatever you have going on, when you get that idea or that light bulb goes off in your head, maybe you shouldn't tell anyone. Maybe you should just go do it. Because what I've learned is when you get the idea, you got to jump on it right away. You can't wait. You have to use that momentum to really skyrocket your idea and to get it out there. So as soon as the idea comes, put it in your notes. Don't forget. So when you get the idea, write it down. Don't forget and jump on it right away. It doesn't matter if it's a good idea or not. When you start acting on these things that start coming into your awareness, you get more and more. And then you get more and more clarity. And then the ideas start coming more and more. And then you get all of this momentum and things just really start falling together. Things really start falling in place for you. I would say stop asking people what they think and just follow your own vibe, follow your own heart, follow your own soul. Follow that. Stay focused on that. Stay focused on how it makes you feel. Does it make you excited or does it put you in a lower place? It should be making you excited. When I first started and I was making like, you know, my little reels that I would release a podcast, it was so embarrassing. Like I look back and I'm like, what was I doing? But I had to start. And now it's like I'm getting better and better and I'm liking my content more and more and I'm enjoying the process and what I'm creating is becoming more clear. But it took me a year and no one judged me. No one said anything mean to me. I'm sure people in the streets were talking, but I didn't hear them. And it's just so cool that like looking back to what I was creating then and now like the ideas I get, it's just such a cool testament that when you do step into the unknown, even though it's scary, it does start leading you to a brighter, better place, which is going to be your most authentic self because it's your internal guiding system leading you, trying to show you the path, the yellow brick road. That's exactly what's happening. Just follow the yellow brick road. Follow the ideas. Follow the insights you get. And don't worry about other people. Just do you. Because when you do you, you'll find you. And that's the truth. So some strategies I want to give you and techniques that can help you connect to yourself more and find your authentic self is one, self-reflection. And I know I talked about that a little bit, but self-reflection is extremely powerful. And if you're willing to do this, like I said earlier, this is what's going to give you the most, in my opinion, personal breakthrough. When you can really sit with yourself and reflect back on your life and your relationships and your triggers, your traumas, and you can really start to dive deep into your soul and figure out what your patterns were and how to move through that so you can be the best version of yourself. A couple years ago, after I went through that traumatic breakup, which if you didn't hear that episode, make sure you guys go and listen to that episode. That's episode 51, From Trauma to Freedom. That is why this podcast exists. That episode is why I'm here right now and why I'm on this path, because that experience woke me up because I was going down the wrong path. And so when I moved to Florida and I left my entire life, I couldn't just blame him for everything. At some point, I chose to be in that relationship. I chose to call him my boyfriend. And I chose to be intimate with that person. And so when I started to learn about self-concept and spirituality, I started to hear that you're not a victim of your life. You have to look within and find out why you're allowing these situations and really start to do a deep dive. And after I started to do that, I quickly learned through self-reflection that I didn't value myself at that time in my life. I had no self-worth, very little. And I didn't value who I was. That was very eye-opening to me because I didn't know that that's what was happening. And now I can see clearly. And it's just crazy. Like what a little self-reflection can do and how powerful it is, and realizing that you have to take responsibility for your life and your actions and the choices you've made and the relationships you've been in and the things you've done, but also realize that you did only do the best that you could do. And don't be very sensitive with yourself when you do this. Be very sweet to yourself, because it's not going to help you if you're reflecting through the negative and then you're just like putting more negative on it. What you're trying to do is you're trying to take that darkness, those dark times in your life, those cycles that continue to happen, and you're trying to shine the light on it so that the darkness can fade away. But you have to shine the light on it. Don't just like let it be there. Look at it. Journal with it. Put music on and cry to it. Go through, grieve it. Like whatever that is in your life that you need to reflect on it and get deep with yourself. And I still do this. I'm still dealing with my own personal battles and things that I'm having to clean up and work on in myself. Like, and I will talk about these things the more I go on. But right now I'm doing these same things, and it is very hard, but it's necessary. And it's going to, when you can face those things, those dark parts, you do realize how strong you are. And you'll have a sense of self-worth, and you'll start to value yourself more and more, because you now are giving yourself love and you're going deep. And when you go deep with yourself, I don't think it's possible to hate yourself more. You end up finding yourself more. You end up loving yourself in those places where you didn't know. You didn't know that person, doing the things that they were doing had such an effect on you, and it stemmed from your childhood. Like, this is like layers and layers of stuff. It's like, I don't want to get too deep into that, but like, have compassion for yourself and love yourself in these moments where you're really doing self-reflection, because it is a difficult journey, but it is so freeing. And that's where you will become free, is when you can really look at yourself in the mirror, be like, what do I need to do to change so I can be happy? So I can be the best version of myself. So I can discard all this crap to move on and be the best. The second thing that you can do is setting boundaries. Setting boundaries is great. I have set a lot of boundaries in my life. It's been the greatest thing I ever did. Today is 9 weeks of me not drinking alcohol. I never thought I could do that, by the way. But I set boundaries in my life for reasons, because I needed to grow and get better. And alcohol was one of those things that was just like keeping my vibe low. And so I needed to set a boundary to overcome that part of myself. It was my goal to drink on the 4th of July, but I feel so good that I haven't drank yet. So, and now it's the 8th of July. So when you are setting boundaries, something is like, say no. If you don't want to go somewhere, you don't want to be somewhere, you don't want to be around that person, just say no. Like, sorry, I can't go. Set boundaries. When you start practicing saying no, you free yourself. Literally. It's crazy. And then the other thing, which I kind of touched on this, but is just really, really practice self-love and self-compassion. This was really hard for me a couple years ago, because I didn't love myself. And because I didn't love myself, I spoke very poorly to myself in my own mind. I numbed a lot of my life with substances. And then the next day I would wake up spiraling, regretting it, feeling like trash, and then would feel better and do it again. Like that was the cycle of my life. And I now don't do that to myself. I have really learned the art of self-love and self-compassion and really allowing myself time to sit with the parts of me that I need to give love and attention to. And so I can forgive myself so I can move on. So self-compassion, self-love, and forgiveness, they kind of happen like maybe in that order. But those three things are huge keys to helping you unlock the program that you've been programmed into for so long, so you can start to reprogram yourself. Realize that you grew up the way you grew up. You had the parents you had, the siblings you had, the family you had, and you were raised the way that you were raised. You have no control over that. So that's really where that self-compassion, loving yourself, is really big. And then on a deeper level from that, we got some inner child healing work. So if you guys want me to do an episode on inner child healing, let me know in the comments below. I would love to put something together for you guys. Tell you when I first actually met my inner child and the experience I had. It was very wild. So again, there's so many layers to this, but if you guys want me to do inner child, let me know. Healing work, I would love to do that for you guys if you're interested in that. As I personally embrace the truth of who I am and what I feel called to do, it is transforming my life from the inside out. And again, if you would have seen me a year ago, I feel like I look completely different. But I've been solely focused on following my own vibe, following what calls me, acting on the ideas I get and have, and doing it right away so that things become more and more clear. As I do this, I do become more and more authentic. I find myself more and more. And I'm learning that the things that I'm interested in actually light my soul on fire and make me so excited. Some of those things are manifestation, self-development, self-growth, spirituality. And people always ask me, what is spirituality? Spirituality to me is how you connect to the divine in your way. Now, I know that goes against even the way I was raised, but that's what it is to me. And that feels true and authentic and real to me. And I feel like that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to live authentically. I need to do that. I need to live out my truth, live out the way I feel, live out what I'm experiencing, and I can always change. Like, that's the other thing. Like, you don't have to live with something forever. You can change. You're meant to change. So those are the things I'm interested in. Following those things that really light my soul on fire has led me down a path of finding my truest, authentic self. And I really hope that you do the same thing. I hope that this inspires you to continue down your path, your soul's purpose and path, and that you follow that and you lean into that, and that you find your excitement in life, and that you journey on into the world that you're meant to journey on into, and that you find that for yourself so that you can be free and inspire others to do the same, and that you find your people. That's my hope for you. It's that you find yourself and then you find your people. I love finding my people, by the way. So to all my people that watch me, I would love to hear from you. Make sure you guys follow me on Instagram. I would love to connect. You are my people. If you're listening to this, I'm going to end it with this. To live an authentic life, it means you're freeing yourself. People like real, and real is rare. So be real. Be the real you. When you live authentically, you will find your people, your tribe. When you live authentically, you will align yourself with who you are meant to be, and you will attract everything that you are meant to attract. We only get this life once. So how are you going to be authentically you? I would love for you to drop a comment below. I would love for you to tell me how you're living authentically, what that means to you, what you want to change in your life, or what you're learning to find your authentic, real, true nature. I love you guys very much. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening, for being a part of Whitney's world. This show is for us all to thrive, for me to empower you to thrive. I really, really hope and pray that you have an amazing week, that you go find your true self, that you start listening to those ideas, to the pictures that you get, to the signs that show up in the world that are trying to show you something, the angel numbers you keep seeing, whatever in your reality is trying to signal to you that there's something more and better and greater. Pay attention to that. Follow that. Live that and be that. I love you guys very much. As always, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's go.